shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Let your feet don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Oh, coffee steam and a smile breaks free. Simple joys are enough for me. Stones roll out, but I don't mind. Sun's still waiting on the other side. Turn it up, feel the sound. Good vibrations all around. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Wake up, sunlight tapping on the door. Feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey now, blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day.
Woohoo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to the Conservative Couch Show. So do appreciate you being here today. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, support the program. Visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Get your premium pre-workout today. $10 off using the promo code ConservativeCat at checkout. You get $10 off. This is great stuff. 150 milligrams of caffeine. Woo! I am fired up. You know that oh gosh, what does that meme that goes around? It's like I'll have to pull it up. That's how I feel. Like I feel like I'm just like losing myself in the club, just jamming out. Amidst this news, Washington Post, massive layoffs. Trump has broken the media, and I am here for it. I'm excited, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more. The Washington Post layoffs. I also want to talk about this Democrat congressman. Can you guess which one it is? He suggested that Americans would be justified in shooting ICE agents, masked ICE agents. He says, oh, you're justified if they're masked because they're like goons is what he called them. Go ahead and throw it in the comment section. Hint, what congressman said that you'd be justified in shooting masked ICE agents? Here's a hint for you. This is what he thinks about illegal aliens. He says, we wouldn't have produce without them. So like your tomatoes, your avocados, your fruit. We have to have those dirty brown people pick our fruit for us. This is what the Democrat congressman said, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. But that's what he thinks about illegal aliens. We have to exploit their labor, us white people, us elitists, Throw it in the comment section if you can guess what Democrat congressman is now saying that you'd be justified in shooting a masked ICE agent. Throw it in the comment section. We are also going to be talking about voter ID. Woohoo! Why don't Democrats like voter ID? You should ask your county clerk, by the way. These are the people that you elect locally. Your local elections matter. Gosh, I mean, there's just so much crazy out there in local government. I mean, I just can't believe. There's a story in the Center Square. You guys can go check it out. Chicago, they're $4.1 billion in the hole. They say they have a balanced budget. How do they manage to say this? Well, they don't count all of their expenses. They just count the expenses that they've actually paid in their financial statements. That's how they can get away with their balanced budget claims. According to Truth in Accounting, it's like a nonprofit watchdog. They just came out with their financial state of the city's 2026 report. And then you review it and you're like, whoa, Chicago's really messed up. And New York ranks lower than Chicago. They looked at the 5 major cities, Los Angeles, performing better than Chicago. That was sort of shocking. I know Los Angeles is kind of a shell, but they're doing better than us. And, your local governments matter. What they're doing in Chicago with their money is just insane. They just keep promising more and more pensions. And it just clicked for me yesterday, and I might be late to the game here, but clicked for me yesterday here in Illinois. They promised the moon and stars for these people on these pension funds. These people in the public sector, they promised the moon and stars via pensions, and they don't have enough money to pay them. We're like $145 billion at the state. It's $145 billion in pension debt, but yet they continue to make these huge promises to people in the public sector via their pensions. And I've never really understood that until yesterday. It clicked for me. I was like, oh, they're trying to gain political favor with these unions. The unions tied to Chicago Fire. The unions tied to the teaching, the IEA, the Illinois Education Association, the Federation of Teachers. They're trying to appeal to those unions, and then the unions in turn donate to their campaigns and give them political and keep them in office. And then they just promise the moon and stars to these teachers, fire, police, and they can't afford it. They just can't. And they're not funding it at all. Their actuaries say, hey, you have to fund it this way every single year. But they don't do that. And you're like, wait a second. Hold on. You say that you have a balanced budget, yet you're counting your loans as revenue, which in the real world, that doesn't happen. Like if you and I were to take out a loan, we don't count that as revenue. Okay, that only happens in the government world, I guess, where you count loans, debt as revenue. And then they don't count all their expenses. They just count the expenses that you paid. So say I have an electric bill and a car payment. If I paid my car payment and didn't pay my electric bill, I'm just going to count my car payment as an expense. I don't even count the electric bill because I didn't pay it. That's how government's kind of working, and that's how they claim that they have a balanced budget. And it's really disgusting because voters, they listen to this nonsense and they believe it. When the city officials come out and say, we have a balanced budget. Oh, well, that's great. I'm going to continue to vote for you. So Los Angeles is doing better than us because they're actually funding their pensions and their retiree health benefits. And there's a requirement locally where a law that says that they have to. So Truth in Accounting, they're working on passing federal legislation, and I like this because it would mirror what we already have. There's a federal law that requires private corporations, which is why private corporations have kind of backed away from pensions and kind of do this 401k matching thing, which is awesome that a Republican has introduced this bill. It will never see probably will never see the light of day. Gonna get stuck in committee, but it's genius. he's introduced a bill that said, hey, teachers, police, fire, like these people with the pension funds in the public sector, they can opt into a 401k like system. University professors are kind of already on this because through the state, where the state matches their 401k, because university professors, they get this exemption, and the way it's been explained is because they tend to move a lot. So they won't stay with one university. They might move to a different state, or they might move into the private sector, and they want their retirement benefits to move with them. So I think that's genius. Republican State Senator Chris Bulkema introduced that legislation. Beautiful. But there's a federal law that requires private corporations to fund their pensions. Okay. And I'm saying if we mandate the private sector to do it, we ought to mandate cities, localities, and the state to fund their pensions and their retiree health obligations, health benefits. That would fix Illinois. I think that would be huge for Illinois. We've got to, that's just unsustainable. $145 billion in pension debt. And then you keep wondering why your property taxes go up. They go up and up and up and up and up. It's because they're, trying to cover their asses for not funding the pensions. But eventually, I don't know. I think that there's going to be a federal bailout in the future. That's probably why politicians decide not to do this, decide not to fund their pensions, because they know in the back of their heads, if we spend on all this woke nonsense and all this bull crap, we spend on illegal immigrants, we can health care for illegal immigrants if we take taxpayer money and dedicate it to illegal immigrant health care, or dedicate it to abortion, or these immigration nonprofits, all of this woke BS. If we take all this taxpayer money and do it to and dedicate it towards that, we can draft up our press releases and continue to get elected. And eventually, the feds are probably going to bail out our pension debt. We're just going to keep it there, and we're going to keep promising the moon and stars. Sorry, I went on a tangent. I was talking about local governments and how it's very important for you to ask your county clerk, call he or she up today and ask them if they're in favor of voter ID, and ask them if they're in favor of getting rid of universal mail-in ballots. And if the answer to those questions is yes, to both, yes, I'm in favor of getting rid of universal mail-in ballots, yes, I'm in favor of voter ID, continue to elect that person. That is my point today, because I do want to talk about Americans of every color, Democrats, Republicans. We're in favor of voter ID. The only people who aren't in favor of voter ID are leftist hacks who are elected officials. I don't know why Democrats who are elected, Democrats, the Americans, American Democrats, they're in favor of voter ID. It's just the elected Democrats that aren't in favor of voter ID, So we're going to chat about that. On the topic of local government, I'm going to have another story for you. This is crazy. I'll have to try to pull up the YouTube clip. Pontiac, Illinois. I actually lived in Dwight for a period of time. This is like central Illinois. Pontiac, Illinois is introducing, and I guess this is pretty standard throughout the United States. I'll give them that. But I didn't even realize, everywhere I've been, there hasn't been a business registration. Normal, Illinois has one. Elgin, Illinois has one, a local business registration. It's pretty common, but not as common in rural areas, because you already go through the Secretary of State and get your business, your employer identification number. Right? You have to go through the Secretary of State and jump through all sorts of hoops in Illinois to open up a business. Now what Pontiac, Illinois wants to do is charge people $10 per business and have your business registered with them. And the justification here is absolutely insane to me. I mean, out loud with their mouths, they're saying, oh, well, we just want to track. We just want to know what everybody's doing in the town. Okay, so you're doing this to be nosy. We want to create a directory because we're going to give a packet, a business directory packet to those who move into Pontiac, Illinois. Number one, Livingston County, which is the county in which Pontiac resides in and sits in. Chamber of Commerce already does something like that. And number two, what century is this? Google exists. If I want to know where the dog groomer is at, or if I want to know where my hairstylist is at in Pontiac, Illinois, guess what? Google exists. And I'm sorry, if you don't put your business on Google, you're an idiot and you're probably not going to succeed anyway, in business. So I don't know what century we're living in where we're handing out packets to residents who move into the area, a packet of businesses. And yeah, it's just complete BS. It's like, you're so lazy. It's got to be lazy or incompetence, or you're trying to make yourself and make a name for yourself by doing this. I don't get it. But you could go to the Secretary of State and figure out all the businesses, employers in Pontiac, Illinois, because they've got to create an employer identification number with the Secretary of State. Like, there's already like state licenses and things that you have to, hoops that you have to jump through at a state level. Why in the world would you be doing this at a city level? It's just annoying. Sorry, another tangent. Local government really matters, folks. Go to your city council meetings. They expect you not to go, and they expect you to be busy and not to care. And to be frank, yes, we all have very, very busy lives. It's hard to make it out to city council meetings. They're boring. They're like every week there's like a committee meeting this day. Try to make it to just your city council meeting, and just you showing up will put them in a very uncomfortable seat. And just showing up is great, because when you don't show up, they pass things that, like, imagine if you had like 4 businesses, you have to pay $10 for every business and register it with the city. Why? Because this guy wants to invite you to meetings and his business meetings, and he doesn't know, like, quite literally, I'm quoting Pontiac officials. They say, all you need is like keys and money to open a business. Yeah, that's kind of how America works, man. Anyway, tangent. All right. Let's get back to today's show. Okay, so let's start with the WAPO. That's today's show. Trump broke the media. And I have a very simple message for the WAPO. Message for the hundreds of employees, about 300. I don't know, a third of their employees got laid off. They found out, a lot of them found out via email, by the way, that their services are no longer required. And my very simple message to them is, hey, Donald Trump is your president, and go Lear to code. Go Lear to code. The Quality Learing Center at the Quality Learing Center. No, go learn to code. So Washington Post, Joe Biden at a rally had said this to coal miners and manufacturers and truckers and oil workers and steel workers and small town America manufacturers. He said, go learn to code. And the Washington Post and the media elites, they echoed this. In fact, I mean, there were subheadlines I remember at the time where, you know, the Washington Post said that America has to adapt or die. Small town America has to adapt or die. Okay, now it's your turn, Washington Post. Go adapt. Okay, it's your turn to adapt or die. I'm sure there's going to be podcasters, like 300 plus podcasters overnight, these Washington Post journalismers. Suddenly they say, oh, you're so cruel, you're celebrating mass layoffs, or you're heartless. These layoffs are a threat to democracy. I've heard it all already. Look, these people are disgusting. They're media elites, and they told you, hardworking America, small town America, manufacturers, coal miners, steel workers, they told you to go adapt. Huh. Karma's not nice, is she? Right? So I've got the karma receipts, the media karma receipts, and this didn't age well. So I want to unpack this for you cleanly, because they absolutely normalized this whole smug learn to code line. Okay, so I'm saying go learn to code. Washington Post. That's what I'm saying this morning to the hundreds who got laid off. Go learn to code. Okay, so this phrase actually came from the mid 2010s, 2016 to 2019. It really took off. Coal miners were losing their jobs. Manufacturing was hollowed out because we're selling out to China. Okay, China is importing in everything here, and we're not creating anything domestically, pulling back on tariffs. Okay, and manufacturing was hollowed out. That is what Donald Trump is trying to correct. Okay, he's trying to get us back to that 90s where manufacturing is booming. We're taking care of ourselves. We're domestically producing things here. And what Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Democrats like are these cushy elitist jobs, like tech jobs, automation, globalization. It's completely wiped out. And if you live in rural America, or if you live in, say, Lincoln, Illinois, it's wiped out entire regions in the country and in the state of Illinois specifically, because we're in the Rust Belt. Okay, so instead of treating those losses, okay, those manufacturing jobs that we lost because the Democratic elites decided to give all kinds of tax breaks, or give all kinds of incentive to go work in places like China, or to go make things in places like China and overseas. Okay, and we outsourced all of our manufacturing, not here in the US of A. We made it so hard with regulation, red tape, to manufacture here. And we started making all of our cars and products over in other countries. Okay, so Democrats did that, and they hollowed out manufacturing. And instead of treating that like the tragedy it is, you look at Lincoln, Illinois. There's 3 or 4 manufacturing plants that are just vacant. Okay, and it's really sad. The town went from like 17,000 people to like 10,000. There's colleges that have been shut down. A couple of colleges in the area. It has just been destroyed. And just think of your small town. Okay. And all of the businesses that are closed up because people have left the area, because there are no jobs there. So all of the storefronts right there in the downtown area abandoned. We've seen this. We're living it. Instead of treating that like the tragedy it is, and those losses as tragedies. Okay, the WAPO framed this as inevitable progress. Okay. Okay, your job might be gone thanks to Democrats and them selling out to China and not being tough on China tariffs and incentivizing businesses to domestically produce here, like Trump is doing right now. Instead of, Democrats doing that, they, made it to where it's impossible to produce anything domestically here with red tape, environmental studies, DEI, right? So your job's gone. Okay, 2010, mid 2010s. Okay, your job's gone, and that is your problem, and you have to adapt. Okay, and that's not the Democrats' problem or the policy problems. No, that's your problem, and you have to adapt. And the WAPO played a very specific role here in this. They ran multiple pieces over the years that has pushed, this message that, hey, you have to adapt. Tech is the future. And, these marketing jobs are the future. These not real jobs. I call them not real jobs. They're not exactly public sector jobs, but they're not real. It's Becky working in PR and human resources. Okay. They're not making things with your hands, selling a product or providing a service. And those are the types of jobs that Democrats prioritize. I think it just comes down to we're inherently different ideologically and biblically. It says that there's people in this world who try to get rich quick. Okay. So they would say the job loss is unfortunate, but the workers have to reskill. Coding, learn to code, and tech are the future, right? And these were common themes that the Washington Post would talk about in mid 2010s, 2016 to 2019. They would, push this, and they would say things like resistance to economic transition is emotional, and you are just being a stick in the mud, really, for wanting your manufacturing job back. You have to adapt. Complaints from displaced workers, American workers, were framed as cultural resentment. Like, oh, the culture's changing. You have to, adapt and change with it. And you complaining about your lost manufacturing job, you're just resentful. And, you're just not progressive. Okay. So, they said, stop whining, learn something new, learn to code, and Joe Biden said this at a rally. And, they constantly talk down to working class Americans. If we complained about the elites crafting policy that took all of our manufacturing jobs away, if we were to complain about that, the Washington Post columnist would, run cover for those Democrats and their policies. And they treated our criticism like it was populist ignorance or cultural resentment. And, you just need to adapt, dude. Okay. And, I think it's ironic. Now the culture's changing. We've got Donald Trump in office. Manufacturing's coming back. This is our golden age. And I think it's their smugness is getting rubbed right back into their faces, and I'm here for it. They had zero empathy. They had this tone that traditional jobs deserve to die, and they pushed out this belief that the cultural elites knew better than you and knew better than the communities being wiped out. And they said, stop complaining about manufacturing being shipped out of here, out of the Rust Belt, and out of America. Stop complaining, you bigot. Okay. Or you're just not progressive enough. Fast forward today, newsrooms are shrinking. Legacy media jobs are disappearing. Things that actually don't create a product or service that people want. Okay. So for example, 700 Beckys working for a PR firm. They're not doing anything. They're not creating anything. They're making posts on social media. It's not real. It's not real work. Okay. And now the culture is shifting and the legacy media jobs are disappearing. Entire departments are disappearing. Washington Post, their sports desk, which it's gone now amidst this layoff, this most recent layoff. The entire department's gone, which is funny. I didn't even know they had a sports department, by the way, until this layoff. And somehow, now democracy is dying, journalism is dying, and these job losses are unjust, and it's Donald Trump's fault. And it's like, you guys are just such like you're such an ass. I can't believe that you are sitting here like saying that you deserve your job, but you sat there and you lectured the hardworking Americans about complaining and being upset about their manufacturing jobs being shipped out of here. So the Washington Post, a once powerful media institution, is collapsing. And they roughly fired a third of their staff, entire departments. Like I said, the sports department is out. Now, you guys remember, or you guys know that this newspaper is based out of Washington, D.C. You guys know this. Okay. And they can't even sell their elitist crap to the elitist liberal establishment that's there in the heart of Washington, D.C. They can't sell their product there. They definitely can't sell it to America. And the truth here is very simple. You can't monetize a liberal worldview in America. You can't do it. Okay. And you have to stop pretending that what you do is journalism. This is about the economy. Or the cultural shift. And this is about what we want as Americans. You have a bad product. You have had a bad product for decades, for years. And now that the Democrat elites don't prop you up and we've got Trump in office, there is a changing happening. Okay. So, they got rid of their sports desk. I wanted to bring this up. I thought this was kind of funny. I realized, I was like, wait a second, the Washington Post, they were the ones, this desk, the sports desk, they pushed for this change from the Washington Redskins to change their name to the Commanders. They were at the helm of that change. And it's not because the fans demanded it. It's because these elitists thought they were better than you and they knew best. And there were no Native Americans demanding this. It's just that the elite activists thought they knew better, and then they pushed for the Washington Redskins to be renamed. This is a sign that America is healing. The complete dismantling of that sports desk shows you that this monopoly is breaking, and for the first time in modern history, legacy outlets are being forced to live in the same market reality as everybody else, and the Democrats aren't going to run cover for them anymore, providing them taxpayer money, okay, and donating to them and keeping their propagandists alive, okay. They have to live in the same world as everybody else, and you don't get relevance. You don't get the relevance for running cover for poor Democrat policies. You don't get guaranteed prestige. No more, we're important because we say we are. You have to convince people to buy what you are selling, and they can't do it in America because a liberal worldview in America is not popular. Never has been. Everybody is, in America, I would say most people are slightly right from the middle. Okay, that's just how America goes. And it turns out that a lot of people like independent journalists. People like real people with iPhones, and they outperform. Look at Nick Shirley. They outperform billion-dollar newsrooms. Okay, and people like the authenticity of real people gathering real information and putting it out there without a spin. So the entire progressive media ecosystem was built on this assumption that they were going to have cultural dominance forever, and this cultural dominance equaled power. But sorry, things are changing. And there's a new sheriff in town. So to the laid off Washington Post employees watching this, shocked, confused, here's the hard truth. You didn't lose your job because of Donald Trump, conservatives. You lost your job because Americans don't believe in you. They never did. They've always been pissed off at you. You've just been propped up by the Democratic elite for way too long, and you're not partaking in the market like everybody else. And you've mistaken activism for journalism, and you've mistook your moral superiority for credibility. And America is sick of it. Democracy isn't dying. Journalism isn't under attack. The monopoly, the media monopoly, is under attack, and that is a great thing. And I'm excited. This is, and it's not just the Washington Post. I mean, BuzzFeed, you've got, what was it, Newsweek, a lot of mass layoffs at these legacy media outlets. And I'm just pumped for it. And Karma, you told, learn to code. Karma's not real nice, is she? All right, let's talk about Jerry Nadler. Maybe you threw it in the comments section. The Jerry Big Belly Nadler, yes. J6 is here. David Pablo in China, I love it. So fun fact, David Pablo in China. You guys can go check him out on YouTube. He's a great friend of mine. If you haven't seen him as a guest here on the show before. So it was so funny. They had Kieran Jean-Pierre at Illinois State University, and then the police at Bloomington police, they all, took a photo op with her because in these liberal communities, the police aren't really police. They're just kind of pencil pushers, DEI hires. And they, took a picture with Kieran Jean-Pierre. And my good friend David Paul Blumenshine, commented on City of Bloomington police page and said she was not pro-police. She was not back the blue. Duh. And like, why would you take a picture with someone who actively sat behind that podium? And we're going to talk about it later today. Pushed out this lie. The White House pushed out this lie under Kieran Jean-Pierre, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Not Jen Psaki, but I think it was Kieran Jean-Pierre at that time. The whipping, remember, law enforcement agents, or these Border Patrol agents. We're going to talk about it today because Jasmine Crockett still believes that happened down at the border, that Border Patrol agents were whipping Haitians. And they pushed out that lie and demonized law enforcement. So you're backing a woman who does not back the blue, but took a photo op with her, whatever. What was so funny about this comment, Dave Paul, he throws that out there. Somebody replies back to David and just calls him, like, nicknames him January 6th. So DPB, he went to January 6th, but he wasn't, storming the Capitol like some people did. Like, they didn't even storm the Capitol. I would say that they were ushered in by Capitol Police. There were some people who entered the Capitol that day. Dave Paul did not. He was at a Cracker Barrel when it was all happening. Okay. He just happened to be there that day earlier. And somebody commented and called him January 6th, like just nicknamed him January 6th. Hilarious. DPB, I think that you should do an official name change, J6. But smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. That $10 is just another money grab. Yeah, we were talking about Pontiac today, how they're doing business licenses, or business registry, where you have to register your business and then pay $10, which is insane to me. It should be unconstitutional. You should just have money and keys and open up a business. And hey, if the business doesn't work, it doesn't work. And why does the government need to know if you're operating a business in their town? It's weird. It gives me tyrant vibes and nosy vibes, and I don't like that. Well, let's get to Nadler, shall we? I'm going off on tangents today. I'm just super excited to be here this morning. Representative Jerry Nadler, who once said that we would have a rotting fruit or rotting produce epidemic if we deported illegals, if we didn't exploit foreign work, foreign cheap labor, we would have a rotting produce epidemic, which these elitists, they think that go learn to code, as the Washington Post said, and Joe Biden said, go learn to code. You got to adapt with the times. They just think that you don't want to work. They think that you are like them, elitists, and you want to exploit foreigners for cheap labor, and you don't want to pick your own produce, which is just disgusting. But so Nadler, he comes out and he, said that we'd have a rotting fruit or produce epidemic if we didn't exploit foreigners for cheap labor. And this is what he says justifies open borders. We should have open borders because our nation's grocery stores depend on it. We won't have produce in our grocery stores. Americans won't work those jobs. Not true. Okay. But he thinks that our nation's grocery stores depend on foreign cheap labor. So he has now said something else. Okay. He's gone way far to the left, way far to the left. This is your left. This is my left. He's gone way far to the left, and he has said that you would be justified in shooting a masked ICE agent. He said this despite that being attempted murder, shooting at an ICE agent who's masked. Just simply because he's masked. But I want you to listen to what exactly he said. Don't take my word for it. Here we go.
Tax cuts on millionaires and billionaires enacted over the last 10 years. But what is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. The attacks on American citizens by masked hoodlums. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person to protect yourself. But we see people being shot for what? For driving a car? We see people, the ICE goons break into people's homes without a warrant. We see them drag out a man, an American citizen, in his underwear without even permitting him in the snow, without even permitting him to get dressed. This is the major problem we have today, along with the attack on our elections. We saw last week.
Okay. So this is Nadler saying you'd be justified in shooting a masked ICE agent, and he went as far as to call them hoodlums, masked hoodlums. He said, he argued Americans would be justified shooting ICE, according to media, would be justified shooting ICE agents if they believed that they were being attacked by masked hoodlums and not one of, the government goons, as he puts it. So if you believed that you were just being attacked by a masked hoodlum, you'd be justified in shooting an ICE agent. And yeah, I can't believe that he took that 10 steps to the left, from his produce comment, the rotting produce comment, and he just went full blown bananas here and said you'd be justified in shooting a masked ICE agent because they're masked hoodlums. Okay. And you wouldn't know if this was a government goon, as he puts it, a government agent. Yeah, no. If you attack somebody, an ICE agent, and folks, they're masked, but they have ICE, they identify themselves. Okay. It's just that they are protecting probably their faces. They're spitting on, they're getting spit on, they're getting scratched. An ICE agent got his finger bit off. The mask is probably more so for their protection. Like, protective wear. They are using things like tear gas, and they don't want to breathe that in. So, like, the mask is probably practical. And on top of that, they're being doxxed. Like, their family members are being chased down. Their faces are being captured, and they're being tracked down through a well-funded, sophisticated network, by the way. The Signal chats, we've covered that here. They have to protect themselves from quite literally domestic terrorists who are using a sophisticated network to track them down, find out where their operations are. They've got administrators in this group chat who are politicians, elected officials, and they might have some insider information on these ICE operations and throw it in the group chat. So, like, they have to protect themselves. That's why they're masked, okay? And not only for the doxing, but and their identity, at least somewhat, but they're identifying themselves as officers. They've got ICE written across their chest, okay, and badges, and like, it's very clear they're ICE officers, okay. Here's what Nadler said. He said, if you are attacked by a masked person, you might think you're being kidnapped. You would be justified in shooting that person to protect yourself. That's what Nadler said. The problem with that statement is that officers are not randomly picking up. There are no masked hoodlums, okay? They're not randomly picking up citizens. These are targeted deportation efforts that are being met with domestic terrorism and being targeted by domestic terrorism, where these operations are thrown into a group chat. And then there's militants, paid militants, well-funded militia paid to go out there and stop federal agents from carrying out these targeted deportation efforts. Okay. And I'm not for Donald Trump when it comes to this. He's doing targeted, and he's really pulling back on, now that Tom Homan's there, they pulled out Kristi Noem, Greg Bovino. They pulled these guys out, and there is a shift in who they are. And Border Patrol agents, a couple of them have told Nick Sortor, who is on the ground in Minneapolis, that there's going to be an operational shift where they're no longer going after the abuelas, right? Which I say, go after the abuelas. If a abuela is illegal and she's just a maid and she's like laying low, I say, yes, deport her. Okay. Does that make me unsympathetic or not sympathetic? Maybe, but quite frankly, I don't care, because it's federal law and you have a job to do, and that's enforce federal law. But they've really shifted, and they've really never really went after the abuelas. Okay. They've always done kind of more targeted deportation efforts, just because 20 million illegals came over Joe Biden's open border. So they've got plenty to work with there. And they've been focusing on deporting the worst kind of criminals. I say deport the abuelas, deport the worst kind of criminals, deport them all. Okay, because fact of the matter is, we have a federal law. You don't like that law, go change the law. But point is, we have a federal law that says you can't be in this country if you're not a U.S. citizen and if you don't have some sort of like temporary status. There's laws, immigration laws that you have to follow. Okay, so we see ICE goons break into people's houses, he says, without a warrant, and he drug a man, an American citizen, in his underwear in the snow without even permitting him to get dressed. Not true. They are not pulling American citizens and zip tying American citizens. And I've talked about this before. The zip ties, there's a reason for them. There's just not enough handcuffs for 20 million illegals. Okay. So they've got to use zip ties. And I would say it's even more humane than a pair of handcuffs. So this incident he's talking about, it's been debunked. Like, this guy was not a U.S. citizen. Okay. And the problem is that Democrats, just because you're in the country or you did the CPB-1 app and you said that you were seeking asylum through Joe Biden, like, that's not what classifies you as an American citizen or somebody who can stay here on a temporarily protected status. Okay, the CPB-1 app was wildly unconstitutional and insane. Like, you can't just claim asylum by clicking a button on a phone. Okay, that's not how our laws are written. And Joe Biden was acting unconstitutionally with that policy, with the CPP-1 app. Okay, so Democrats, they like to manipulate the definition of what an American citizen is. And they think that, people who use the CPP-1 app and checked in to America under the Biden administration, they believe those people are American citizens. That's not true. Okay. So the left only has themselves to blame for the most recent ICE shootings. And to be honest with you, the most recent ICE shootings, Renee Good, he brought up she's being gunned down for driving a car. Yeah, into an ICE agent. Okay, she got gunned down because she drove the car into somebody. But they have themselves to blame. And to be honest with you, these Renee Good and Alex Preddy, they wanted to die. And here's why I say that. They were no longer human beings, like capable of prioritizing their life's faith, family, friends. They weren't capable of that anymore. They've adopted a radical ideology. And, it's very similar to those who go into service. Okay, so military members, veterans, they know that their life, their personal life, their priorities, that all goes out the window once you sign on that dotted line. Okay, your priorities, yes, God, but country comes before anything else, including your own life. Okay, so I mean, big thank you to our veterans, because I could never do that. I could never put my life on the line like that. There's no greater love than this, than to lay one's life down for a friend. They have, the left, bought into this ideology that if they put their life down for this cause, they are martyrs. This is a religion and a cause that they believe so deeply in that they're willing to die for it. Okay, so they wanted to die. They were militants who, were part of a well-funded, sophisticated operation against the United States. We're at war. We're in a civil war right now. And I push back on Donald Trump all the time. I say, invoke the Insurrection Act. You got to treat this like war, because here's what's going to wind up happening. If we don't crack down on this now, midterms happen, the Democrats get in power, they're going to remember, these ICE operations and deportations, and they're going to make our lives hell for just, pushing back a little bit, for deporting the worst of the worst criminals. They're going to make our lives a living hell because they are vindictive, vicious, and they believe that their cause is the just cause. We need to believe that our cause is just as is more morally correct and worth fighting for. And what we're fighting for is a country, America, and our sovereignty. We're on the right side of history here. Okay, and you'll even hear the libs. They'll say you're on the wrong side of history. They see this as a civil war. And I think that Republicans, Donald Trump, they don't see this as a civil war. They don't see that we're at war. They're not treating it as such. They think that if we pull Greg Bovino out of there, Kristi Noem, and if we just kind of focus on the really bad apples of illegal immigrants, like, the left will go away. No, that's not going to happen. So the left is to blame for these two recent ICE shootings, but also Renee Good and Alex Preddy, they wanted to die. Like, at the end of the day, they were militants, and they adopted this ideology and a cause that they believed so deeply that they were willing to die for it. Okay. And the dangerous rhetoric, that contributed to their deaths as well. The brainwashing that happened. If you look at the information coming out about Alex Preddy, his parents like said, we don't even recognize him. Like he changed a lot in the last couple of years. He was quitting his job. Everybody's like, he's an ICU nurse. Guy was quitting his job. He divorced. His ex-wife said, we don't talk at all, really, but I didn't think that he'd, go after anybody physically. Well, Alex Preddy, a week prior to his death, went after somebody physically and spit on them and kicked their taillights out. So quite the character change. It's a cult. It's dangerous rhetoric that makes naive liberals believe that interfering and provoking federal officers with guns is a good idea. Dangerous rhetoric like that contributed to the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Not only would that be, an obstruction, interfering, provoking federal officers. This is obstruction. It's treasonous, borderline treasonous, I think, because you're doing it in a sophisticated way. You're funded. But it's also extremely dangerous, and it's rhetoric like this that's going to keep getting people killed, telling them that they're justified in shooting ICE agents. Like, you are playing a very dangerous game here. If you want less Renee Goods and less Alex Preddy's, you've got to tone this down, Mr. Nadler. Okay. Because ICE agents, I don't think they're going to be playing Russian roulette here when it comes to leftist agitators, because in a high stress situation like that, at the end of the day, the ICE agent is going to try to come out with his life. Okay. And he's fighting to ensure rapists, murderers are off the street. And these leftist agitators are fighting to ensure they stay on the street and that they aren't illegal or deemed illegal. Okay. And they've got two opposing goals here. And ICE agents, they're not going to mess around. Okay. You start shooting an ICE agent, a masked ICE agent, because you think you're justified because Jerry Nadler told you so. You're not coming out with your life. Okay. Likely. ICE agents have more money. And that's why I'm so pissed at Donald Trump. It's like, we've got more money, we've got more means, more resources than these people. Let's just take them down. Right? I mean, and I get it, like Civil War. I mean, it's sad that they've bought into this ideology. But, our side is better. And we should start acting like it. Okay, so again, we're not talking about American citizens or undocumented individuals who are laying low, like your abuelas, who are maids. Okay, we're talking about targeted deportation efforts at this point, and criminals accused of heinous crimes like murder and rape. Okay, so people like Nadler telling Americans to risk their lives for scummy criminals like that, and to threaten the lives of ICE officers in defense of these scummy criminals, and these ICE officers are just performing their duties. The fact that nobody cares that Jerry Nadler is doing this is deeply concerning. Okay, we should care that his rhetoric is provoking these people to go out in the streets, feel justified in shooting masked ICE agents in defense of the most horrible types of scummy criminals, because we know Donald Trump is not carrying out the deportation of abuelas. So this isn't real compassion that they have for the immigrant community. Okay. It's fake. Okay. And I think that there is this type of liberal who projects their ideology onto these immigrants. There are those types of people, and I feel bad for them because they're just naive. They project it and they think that, the Venezuelan gang member wants free health care and wants women's rights and reproductive rights just as much as I do. and they project their ideology onto these Venezuelans. The Venezuelan people, or these illegal immigrants, especially the ones that are being targeted by the Trump administration, they don't care about that stuff. No, they don't care about the same things you care about. They're here to destroy, kill, and steal from America, because their country has told them that America owes them. And their ideology is that, hey, my country is superior, my religion is superior. And their country tells them that, and then they come here, and that's their worldview. Okay, so they don't have the same worldview as you. And you're projecting your worldview onto them, and they don't even really like you, white lady. Okay. Given the chance, they would hurt you. Okay. And yeah, so this is what Nadler thinks of illegals, by the way. I want to pull this out. This is a good one. Just one of those great clips that I like. This is what he thinks about illegal aliens. So he might be, talking tough, but they don't really care about the illegals. There might be a population of leftists who project their ideology onto immigrants. Like I said, I think a lot of that is like the white wine mom who says like, oh, like little Juan, like he's just like me. And it comes from a place of not wanting to live in reality. They don't want to think that Juan would kill them. And it's too much for them to fathom that there's places in this world, that there's evil in this world that tells these individuals who come into our country, America is evil and inferior. They don't want to think about that. So they project their virtues onto these illegal immigrants. I think that there's a leftist population like that out there. Jerry Nadler is just one of these elitists who said the quiet part out loud here. Take a listen.
We need immigrants in this country. Forget the fact that the farm that our vegetables would rot in the ground if they weren't being picked by many immigrants, many illegal immigrants. The fact is that the birth rate in this country is way below replacement level, which means our population is going to start shrinking. And the ratio of people on Social Security and Medicare is going to increase relative to the number of people supporting them.
Okay, so there are leftists like this out there where they say the quiet part out loud sometimes. And we know that they're not compassionate about or compassionate towards illegal immigrants. They would just rather have the immigrants here because they're elitist and they want the foreign cheap labor. Okay, so they can continue to make money off the backs of brown people. Okay, that's just your traditional Democrat that's been that way since the 1800s. The first Civil War. So there's those leftists out there. The left doesn't actually care about giving these people an opportunity for a better life. Most people on the left, I would say that there's maybe those liberal wine moms that, think that these people are here for a better life, and they project their ideologies and political values onto them. But it's just naive, and they want to keep their head in the sand. These brown people wouldn't hurt me. They love me. And if I project my lifestyle onto them and my values onto them, then of course they're going to believe the same things I believe. No. But yeah, either way, these leftists don't actually care about giving these people a better life. If they really cared about giving these people a better life, they'd convince them to assimilate. And if they weren't willing to assimilate, then they'd ship them out of here. Okay. Assimilation to American life, American values is the best way for you to have a better life. Professing Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and recognizing that Christian values are what has made this country so great. That's what makes your life better. Okay. But if they're not willing to do that, I'm sorry, you have to leave. Okay. Because you're going to drag us all down with you. So, they would be, they would not be so dedicated to ensuring every human is no human is illegal if it didn't benefit them in some sort of way. For the white liberal moms, it benefits them in some sort of way because they can live in this fantasy world and they don't have to think about one killing them and hating them. And they believe this out of their naive worldview because it benefits them to not face reality. Okay. And then for the Jerry Nadlers, the elites, it benefits them if no human is illegal because they can bring the illegals in here, the brown people, and use them as foreign cheap labor. Okay. There's two types of people here in the left. But either way, it's to benefit them. Okay. So that's not real compassion. Real compassion is telling them the truth. Hey, your world view sucks. Okay. Somalia, cousin marriages suck. Your God, not real. Okay. And this is what you should do. That is compassion. That is telling them the truth. And this fake compassion is just a selfish game that the left plays. They also, there is this part in the left, the Jerry Nadlers, they want to stay in power. And in order for them to stay in power, they have to ensure that they never lose an election again. And the liberal white moms and wine moms and the Jerry Nadlers, they kind of team up and they ensure that the brown people keep electing them again and again and again and again. So that way they stay in power and keep benefiting from them being here. So unfortunately for them, the American people were done with it. We see right through this political theater, and we're no longer voting for it. Obviously, in 2024, there was a huge mandate. The voters mandated that we enforce the law, and there's nothing more, nothing the left hates more than that we said, hey, we're done with this. Okay. All right. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to take a quick break, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the SAVE Act because everybody's for it. People of all colors, Democrats, Republicans. This is a deeply popular policy enforcing voter ID. So we're going to talk about that. I'll be right back. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Welcome back to Conservative Cat Clips, where we claw through the lies and we lay out the truth. No filter, no fluff. I'm your host, Kat, and we're tackling the abortion debacle today, but this time we're pulling back the curtain on abortion's ugly origin story. Let's talk about Margaret Sanger, founder of what would become Planned Parenthood. The left treats her like some sort of feminist hero, but they conveniently leave out where she was a eugenicist and she spoke at KKK rallies and she wanted to, quote, weed out the unfit. Her words, not mine, folks. In a 1938 letter, Sanger wrote about her plans to target Black communities, and I quote, "We do not want the word to get out that we want to exterminate the Negro population." Does that sound like they're trying to hide something, doesn't it? Planned Parenthood was built on this ideology, and Sanger didn't want to empower women. She wanted to control population growth, particularly among minorities, the poor, and the disabled, anyone she and her elite pals deemed less desirable. That's who she wanted to weed out. And guess what? The legacy still haunts the abortion industry today. Don't believe me? Look at the numbers. Black women make up about 13% of the population, but they account for nearly 40% of all abortions. You think that's by accident? No, ma'am. That's what's called targeted marketing and deception. They're marketing abortion to Black women. So while the media glamorizes abortion as freedom, let's be real. It started with a woman who thought freedom meant eliminating the weak. And while the left tears down statues of long dead so-called racists, they keep handing out awards named after Margaret Sanger. Hypocrisy much? The left is tearing down these statues, but yet they're handing out awards named after Margaret Sanger. Now, I know some folks are going to say, well, that was a long time ago, Kat, sure. But Planned Parenthood is still the nation's largest abortion provider. They're still planting clinics in these low-income minority neighborhoods, and they're marketing abortions to minorities. And they were raking in $500 million of taxpayer dollars, by the way, every year. And just until recently, President Donald Trump signed this executive order to end the federal taxpayer dollars to fund and promote elective abortion. The order recognizes that for nearly 5 decades, Congress enacted a little something called the Hyde Amendment. It's a series of additional laws to protect taxpayers from being forced to pay for abortion. That's what the Hyde Amendment does. Contrary to this longstanding common sense policy, the previous administration, Joe Biden, they dedicated all kinds of federal funding to elective abortion and a wide variety of government programs. This isn't about women's health. It's about politics, power, and profit. The future, it's up to us. In a post-Roe world, gives us this chance to right historic wrongs. We need laws that protect the unborn, support women, and finally shut down the lie that abortion is some kind of virtue. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. I'm Kat, reminding you that the truth has claws and history doesn't lie. Margaret Sanger's past isn't just history, it's the foundation of a system that we are fighting today. Stand tall, speak out, and choose life. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I so do appreciate you being here today. We are talking about the SAVE Act. Okay, this would require documentary proof of United States citizenship to register to vote and to vote. So you would have to show your voter ID. You would have to show proof of citizenship before voting. Now, this is very popular among Americans. So what's the holdup here? Okay, we're a year in, Don. I really want the SAVE Act to be passed. I don't know what the holdup is. Oh, wait, it's the Senate Democrats, and they're threatening filibuster. So today's show is breaking it all down. Look, I just want to make sure that you are who you say you are. That's it. That's all I want. I just want you to know. And you need to know if your county clerk, ask them outright. Okay, if your local county clerk is pro getting rid of mail-in ballots, number one. Okay, they should be all about getting rid of mail-in ballots. It would be easier on their offices. It would take less taxpayer resources. There's no reason why your county clerk should be pro mail-in ballots. If your county clerk is pro mail-in ballots, you shouldn't be voting for he or she. Okay, if your county clerk says, I'm not for voter ID, that person is weird and not in the majority. Okay, so I usually encounter people who say that it's racist, and these are diehard leftists. Okay, they'll say it's racist or it disenfranchises people, and that's why we can't have voter ID, because there's people out there who can't get an ID. I encounter those people. Those people are typically diehard leftists. Or just senile. So I encounter that group of people, and then I encounter a different group of people who say, wait, hold on a second. What do you mean we don't have voter ID? Like, what do we do if we don't show our ID at the ballot booth? And like, how do we prove who we are? How do we prove we're U.S. citizens? It's federal law that you can't vote in federal elections if you're not a U.S. citizen. So how do I prove I'm a U.S. citizen and vote? What do you mean we don't have voter ID laws or voter ID requirements? So there's two groups of people: the diehard weirdos and the group of people that says, yeah, this is like common sense. So over 80% of Americans agree with this, according to polling released by CNN's Harry Enton. Including 70% of Democrats. Okay, so 80% of Americans, you can't get 80% of Americans to agree on anything. Okay, and of those 80%, 70% of Democrats say 70% of Democrats say, yeah, voter ID just makes sense. Take a listen. Here we go.
People are with Nicki Minaj, because what are we talking about here? So take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
What about by party? What's the party breakdown?
Yeah, normally you might expect, hey, there'd be a big divide by party with Republicans really for it and Democrats really against it. But not really here. I mean, just take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, but even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. So again, Nicki Minaj posting that on X, and what you see is that the American people, actually, it's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrats. We're talking about 7 in 10 Democrats agreeing with Nicki Minaj that you, in fact, should show a photo ID to vote.
What's the racial breakdown?
Okay, what's the racial breakdown on this, right? Because I think a lot of people make the argument that people of color, non-white Americans, have a harder time procuring a photo ID to vote. But even here, take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
So something of a controversy, in other words.
That's very good. The alliteration of Mr. John Berman, that Harvard education, paying off once again.
Harold, and thank you very much.
Oh, man. So everyone supports it except Senate Democrats, and figure out if your county clerk supports it or not. Senate Democrats, they're threatening the filibuster. This is why we still don't have the SAVE Act. They're willing to die on this hill to ensure that no one presents a photo ID or an ID to vote. Okay, so according to the left, voter ID is racist. This is what they say. Here's the truth. It's not. The SAVE Act is very popular among all racial groups, as our boy at CNN, he loves his job way too much, by the way, had just said, and he gave you the numbers, and that's increasing year after year. So there, I think it was like 76% of Black people are pro-voter ID or ID to vote, and that increases year over year. It just keeps going up and up and up and up. So, in other words, the only people who find this controversial are leftist elected officials. That's it. Voters of both parties in all races largely support this. That's what the numbers show. Another claim that the left likes to make is that this would disenfranchise minorities, elderly people, and those without cars. You'll also hear this from idiot Republicans. With mail-in ballots. Okay, I can't believe that a Republican county clerk, and I know of one, would say that mail-in ballots you have to have them, otherwise it disenfranchises the elderly. For all of time, just up until 2020, recent history here, we have done this voting thing without universal mail-in ballots. But the left, they will claim that voter ID disenfranchises elderly people or people without cars or minorities. Sunny Hostin from The View even claims that most Democrats around the world most democracies around the world don't have a requirement to vote with voter ID in elections. Okay, democracies around the world, which is not the truth. Okay, the truth is voter ID is very common in other major countries that have democratic processes, and there is no evidence of disenfranchisement. Okay, so you have voter ID in Switzerland, France, Israel, Mexico, India. Okay, these major countries can do this, and there is no evidence of disenfranchisement at all. So another claim that the left makes is that voter ID isn't necessary because the 2020 election was the most secure election in American history. huh? Even if that were true, which it's not. Voter ID would not affect that. In fact, it would only make it better to secure our elections and to make sure they're secure. They're trying to say that we shouldn't touch it because our elections are secure already. Okay, but like this is just another step to make it more secure. Okay, so since 2020, the left has really fundamentally changed how voting works. Okay, we have mass mail-in ballots, universal mail-in ballots, drop boxes, ballot harvesting, no verification. And, if you bring forward anything that might be questionable, you can't do that because you will be jailed or prosecuted. 18 people in Fulton County were concerned about a video, Ruby Freeman, pulling out suitcases, tabulating votes a couple of times, it looked like, on video. Then, of course, the water main break, right? Pennsylvania changing their laws, their election law, longstanding election law just prior to the 2020 election. So everything about voting has changed. Mail-in ballots, drop boxes, ballot harvesting, but you're not allowed to question anything. And if you do, if you bring something questionable forward, you're shot down, you're prosecuted, you're jailed. Okay, so this has all happened since 2020. And Nicki Minaj, he mentioned there, had the courage to go on X and question our elected officials about this. And, hey, you say it's secure, but why not enhance the security, the integrity of our elections by having voter ID? She goes out, she asked these elected officials and people who are too weak to ask our elected officials. She had the courage and she said, what sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation would have a debate on whether or not we should have voter ID? That's what she said on X, according to Minaj. Leftists are fighting not to have people present ID when voting for leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now? Okay. You have people fighting against a security measure. It's kind of like your house. Okay. Yeah, you haven't had anybody burglarize it. But, are you going to say no to a security system just because you haven't had anybody burglarize it? No. Most people have locks on their door despite never being robbed. Okay. The excuse the left makes here is not a good one. That, hey, we have secure elections. The 2020 election was the most secure. And, we have secure elections. Okay. But why not make them more secure? Or why not have this policy, just to ensure that it's really secure? Especially considering all of the changes that we've made to the election process, mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, drop boxes. We've made a lot of changes. For example, your house. You might not have ever been robbed, but say you got a nice hot tub in the back and you got a new fence, you got some floodlights. People in the neighborhood start to notice. You might want to protect those assets more. So you update your security system rather than just a locking mechanism. You have an alarm system now because you're protecting your assets. If we've changed voting so much since 2020, we ought to ensure that those processes are really protected and put as many things in place to secure our elections, right? According to proponents of this policy, it's racist to request opponents of this policy, of the SAVE Act. It is racist to request somebody to present voter ID because I guess Black people are too stupid to go get voter ID, which is the most racist thing I've ever heard in my life. And it's a total lie to suggest that, hey, people can't go get an ID because of their skin color. That is just so stupid. It's a terrible excuse. And it's just outright racist and it's a lie. Okay. So there's no evidence to suggest that somebody of a different skin color has a harder time obtaining ID ownership. There is no evidence to suggest that's the case at all. Secondly, the fact that the left implies that these races are too stupid to go get an ID, okay, is so racist I can barely even comprehend it. Okay, no evidence to suggest that they have a harder time getting an ID. And the fact that you are implying that they could have a harder time getting an ID is very, very racist and wrong. And thirdly, it opens the door for fraud. Okay, despite the left claiming that questioning fraud is a conspiracy theory, even if you say, hey, there could be a potential for fraud, you're a conspiracy theorist if you think that. Okay, so, not having voter ID opens the door for fraud because you're not verifying who that person is. And we have federal laws that say that non-citizens cannot vote in our elections. You have to verify who you are in order to vote in our elections. And if you don't verify who you are in order to vote for our elections, some people say, hey, that could potentially open up the door for fraud. But God forbid you say that, because you're a conspiracy theorist if you say that. Okay, so this is what people want. Clearly, we want secure elections. Secure elections should not be controversial. It should not be it should not be partisan issue. Any elected official that's claiming that you shouldn't have voter ID is saying that you don't deserve election integrity. And any elected official saying that they don't like voter ID or that they're pro-universal mail-in ballots, they should be investigated to the fullest extent, because that person is probably wanting the potential of fraud to be there in order to commit fraud. Okay, so there's nothing moral about working this hard to prevent secure and elections that have integrity. Okay, so clearly that's a very immoral person. And the only logical conclusion that I could make about somebody who doesn't want universal mail-in ballots just to stop, somebody who doesn't want voter ID, the only conclusion I can draw here is that their motives are sinister, selfish, and that person needs to be investigated, because 80% of Americans are pro-voter ID. What the hell is wrong with you? What are your intentions here? Are they sinister? Do you not want voter ID because you want that potential of fraud to be there, to keep yourself in power? It's really messed up if somebody says that they're anti-voter ID. Okay. And like I said, there's this argument out there that we don't need voter ID because our elections are secure enough. That's silly. Nobody says, oh, my house is secure enough. Okay. People put locks on their doors despite not being robbed. Okay. And it's just kind of silly to say that there's not enough voter fraud out there. There's plenty of voter fraud. And they say, oh, well, we don't have to take election security seriously because there's not enough voter fraud, which isn't really true. There's tons of voter fraud. In fact, I have 3 examples that I've pulled for you at the top of my head, but there's plenty of more examples. These are just 3 major ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Number 1, remember Michigan prosecutors, they charged the Chinese citizen. He was not a U.S. citizen. They charged him with voter fraud and perjury after he cast a ballot, allegedly, in the 2024 election. So we had an illegal immigrant, okay, a Chinese citizen, not a U.S. citizen. We had him. Well, he was on a student visa, so I can't say that he was illegal, but he's not a U.S. citizen, which is breaking federal law, voter fraud. You have to be a U.S. citizen to vote in federal elections. He cast a ballot in the 2024 election. This was a federal election, and Michigan prosecutors charged him. Okay, he was 19 years old. That's one. Two, Esperanza Contreras. She was an apartment manager, a landlady. She's been charged with voter fraud. This happened in January of this year. Okay, these are just the most semi-recent examples that I pulled just recently. January 2026. Okay, she was charged with voter fraud because she had mail-in ballots sent to her house. This is why I'm anti-mail-in ballot, and your county clerk should be too. She was caught getting these mail-in ballots from her tenants. Okay, she's a landlady. She got 4 ballots in her tenants' names, and she casted their ballots without their knowledge during the 2024 election, one of which actually got counted. Okay. Number 2, that was I've got 3 of them here. Okay. I could go on and on, but I'm just going to talk about 3 today. So when the left says there's not mass voter fraud, so that is why we don't need voter ID. Pull up examples. Okay, so those are 2 examples. A third one would be in 2018 and 2019, Illinois, through their automatic voter registration at the DMV. Okay, so at the DMV, when you get your license, you're automatically registered to vote. You have to opt out of it. Okay, and there was a computer glitch. What happened next? Okay, back in 2018, 2019, they rolled out this automatic voter registration. What happened next? There was a computer glitch where hundreds of non-citizens went straight to the voter rolls. Okay, because 2017, I think, is when we allowed non-citizens to obtain driver's licenses and voter IDs, state-issued IDs. So they were automatically registered to vote because of a computer glitch, sending hundreds of non-citizens, 545, I think, over 500 non-citizens straight to the voter rolls. That's against federal law because you can't register to vote if you're a non-citizen, if you're not a U.S. citizen. Okay. Doesn't matter if you have temporary status or not. If you are not a citizen of this country, you cannot register to vote. Okay. So the state admitted that they had over 500 non-U.S. citizens on their voter rolls and that they were improperly registered. They admitted this, and they admitted that some even voted. About 15 people who were registered to vote through this automatic voter registration program that we set up through the DMV, 15 of them actually casted ballots in the elections, 2018, 2019 elections. Okay, it is illegal under federal law for non-citizens, non-U.S. citizens to vote in federal elections. It's also illegal under federal law to register to vote if you are a non-U.S. citizen. Okay, so registering is illegal if you are a non-U.S. citizen. This form was offered automatically. People, in fact, registered to vote. So this was fraud. Okay, there were 15 people about who actually casted a ballot. Okay, so don't know about you. Over 500 people broke the law. Then you have 15 people on top of that breaking the law twice. Okay, so, and it doesn't matter if the form was offered automatically and there was a glitch in the system. It doesn't matter if a government worker made a mistake and clicked the wrong box and checked the wrong box on the screen and didn't put down non-citizen. The argument here is that the leftist argument is that there's not enough voter fraud to justify election security in the first place. So that's not true, as we just laid out. I gave you 3 examples of fraud. But, this whole argument is like logically equivalent to saying that motor vehicle theft is rare. It's a rare crime. Thus, there's no need for laws to protect people from these offenses. Okay. Or for example, you might not have been robbed yet at your house, so there's no need for a lock on your door. Okay. It's just a stupid argument. And not only is that, this is what people want. Obviously, 80% of Americans are pro voter ID. But this is the most sensible, logical way to handle things. Signature verification. You have to have, like the way our laws are now, you have to have like 2 poll workers or 2 election judges do signature verification. They have to be of a different party. At least here in the state of Illinois, Republican, Democrat, Independent. It's just a lot of like headache, to verify a signature. Plus, mail-in ballots. Are you really verifying signatures and verifying who people say they are? For example, the landlady who cast all those ballots in her tenants' names. Like, there's no true way to verify people are who they say they are through the mail. And this is the most logical way to handle things. And anyone who pretends otherwise is either clinically incompetent or demented in some sort of way, or they have sinister intentions and they like having this this avenue for fraud, for potential fraud. Okay, they like it. So only the left can take something as normal as presenting an ID to vote and make it controversial. This is not controversial. Okay, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'm going to be right back. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to talk about this viral video. This is really weird. A mom is saying that she would much rather commit a murder-suicide with her kids than be deported by ICE. Or be taken into custody by ICE. So the Child Protection Services have been called, but this is a viral video, and I think you're going to be fascinated by this video. I'll be right back.
Real strength doesn't need applause, and real faith doesn't flex for attention. Jesus said, when you fast, don't walk around looking miserable. Try to look holy. That's not devotion. That's performance. And God doesn't reward actors. Matthew 6, verses 16 through 18, is Jesus calling men to fast in secret, where only the Father sees. Because fasting isn't about proving your discipline. It's about pursuing God with hunger, so real, you trade food for fire. You don't fast to earn points. You don't fast to make space. You weaken the flesh so the spirit gets louder. You say no to your cravings so you can say yes to something deeper. But here's the catch. It's got to be real. Not for your boys, not for social media, just you and God. In the quiet, in the dark. That's where rewards are born. In silence, in secret, in the furnace of unseen obedience. You want to be strong in public? Train in private. Fast without a stage. Pray without applause. Obey without a crowd. Your Father sees in secret, and He's the only one who reward what matters. Patriot Pump doesn't give you just energy. It keeps you focused. No fluff, no crash, just clean, hard-driving fuel for men who train with purpose and sacrifice. If you're building discipline in the dark, this is your edge. Train hard, stay sharp.
Hey, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. We're talking about a Portland mom today. She's gone viral on social media. She said, I would much rather commit suicide and homicide than to have my kids taken into custody by ICE. Don't believe me? Here it is.
Pray it doesn't get bad enough. But being a mom in America, I had to stop walking for this. I often think that if it gets to the point of knocking on doors, God, and to even have these thoughts, it's like I'm literally separating from reality right now. If it comes down to me taking out myself and my kids versus us being taken and harmed by ICE, like, God help me, I did not want to do it. This is not the life I wanted. But that is a very dark thought that I've had. Death would be a easier out than for my children to be taken and harmed by these pedophiles.
What? Wow. Weird. So Tavi Quinn is what she goes by on social media. She's a Portland mom. She's in the clip and she says, if it comes down to taking out myself and my kids versus being taken and harmed by ICE, death is the easier way out, would be the easier way out. According to the Right Angle News Network, Child Protection Services have been notified of the situation. Good. This is one of the most disturbing videos I've ever seen in my life. The bling for number one was a little disturbing. Two, we can almost be certain that she and her kids are American citizens. So this truly means that she believes that ICE is targeting random Americans. And she believes this because every elected official has told her that that's happening and that they are kidnapping Americans off of the street. And she mentioned pedophiles. I don't get it. I saw this with Liam Ramos. They said that, ICE took the kid because they are touching, little boys and girls and kidnapping them because they're pedophiles. Conspiracy, like, who's the tinfoil hat wearer? Okay, Liam, his dad ran away from him. They took him to McDonald's and they took care of Liam and tried to return him, or tried to give him to next of kin, but they wouldn't open the door for little Liam. So that's what happened there. I think she's delusional. Okay, to believe those lies that people are that ICE agents are actually kidnapping random Americans. Completely delusional. Secondly, the fact that she believes ending her kids' lives is better than, an ICE detention center is deranged. Even let's say she was an American citizen, let's say her kids weren't, and they were being deported. A lot of these deportees are being treated very nicely. They're getting on planes and they're given food and meals. And in fact, if you self-deport under the Trump administration, you get like $1,000 or something crazy like that. So it's completely deranged, illogical, and disturbing to think that even if you guys were subject to deportation and you guys weren't American citizens and ICE targeted you in a deportation operation, which they're not, because I don't like this, but Donald Trump is only focusing on hardened criminals, not the abuelas. Okay. Okay. So if she's a mom with a couple of kids, most likely you're not going to be the subject of a deportation operation. We're looking what the Trump administration wants are the hardened gang members who are raping and murdering people. Okay, but let's say that you were an abuela and you have two little kids here and you're a maid and you're kind of under the radar, undocumented immigrant, okay? And for some odd reason you are deported, which isn't really the Trump policy, but let's just say for argument's sake it is. You're going to be treated nicely at these detention centers. Okay. And I'm even if you weren't treated nicely, like, let's say, they gave you like slop and a cold, thin mat to sleep on. Okay. And they didn't allow you to bathe. These detention centers have showers. I mean, but they're not staying there long. They're getting deported and they're getting on the flight with the meal. They get a meal on their flight to go back home. But let's say you were being treated semi-poorly. You're talking about the death of your children. Okay. Mothers, their duty is to protect their kids at all cost and not to ponder what it would be like to end their lives over things that are not happening. Okay. And if she truly believes that what ICE is doing is kidnapping Americans, which they're not, but even if she were to believe this is true, she's not justified in what she said. Okay. There is no evidence that ICE is touching children or being pedophiles or torturing anybody they deport or detain. These detention centers are open to media. You can go see where the living conditions of these people, it's probably nicer than, some people's living conditions in the US at this point. These detention centers, it's like little dormitories until you get deported and you get your nice meal on your plane back home. Okay. So she went as far here, and there's another subsequent video. I think that she took that original video offline, but there's another video where she went as far to say that she purchased a handgun, meaning she has every intent to harm her and her kids if it comes down to that or them being taken into custody. This is crazy. Take a listen.
So last night I was shopping online and I decided to place a order for pickup today at Sports.
So throw it in the comment section. Are those band-aids on her face? I really don't know. Maybe one of her piercings, like maybe both of these piercings, like got pulled out of her face and she had to wear band-aids. I don't know. Are those band-aids? Help me out, guys.
Warehouse. Unfortunately, I was too embarrassed to ask the man at the counter to be in a quick TikTok clip for me. But this is kind of the reality that a lot of people are looking at right now. I've got it here. And I am somebody who never thought I would own one.
So she purchased a handgun. But what's crazier is that she's at no risk here of being deported at all. So I don't know why she's making these videos. Who knows? I can't believe that these people exist. I forbid to go down this rabbit hole and think that people are this delusional. Somebody said she's a product of MS Now, CNN. I hope that this is just clickbait, and I hope and pray that she's just trying to go viral by saying very absurd things. But I don't know. And the fact that she went out and put this all on video, I mean, it's one thing to be delusional. It's a whole nother thing to, put this out there for the world to see. Like, of course, CPS is going to be called here, right? Child Protection Services. So what's disturbing is that this woman can vote. If this is real and this isn't just clickbait, and somebody this deranged has a say in our country's elections, that's creepy. It's truly incomprehensible, and it's clear you can't be too logical when dealing with these people. In her eyes, she really believes that she's fighting the Nazis, and she doesn't want the Nazis to take her kids to concentration camps. That's what's in her brain. Okay. And this is somebody who we would all agree as a society would need to be in a psych ward. But today, in modern society, we just dismiss her as a radical liberal. This is somebody who needs to be in a psych ward. Her kids need to be taken away. Like, I pray for her kids, like saying that you would kill them over ICE taking them. And there is no indication that your kids would be taken if you're an American citizen. But even if you weren't an American citizen, the likelihood, unless you're a hardened criminal, that you get deported is very low under the Trump administration because their policy is weak. But let's say, you're one of these undocumented immigrants that fly under the radar, and you're an abuela who's working as a maid. Okay. And you're somehow subjected to a deportation order. Even then you get to the detention camp, you're going to be just fine. You're getting meals, you're getting a place to stay, you're getting on a plane, you're getting a meal on the plane. Like, yeah, wild. All right. Hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day. That's going to do it for me today. I appreciate you being here. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. We will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Time. And until then, you be blessed and stay free. This has been the Conservative Cat Show.